Welcome to Central Truth, a ministry of Hearts Inc. with Pastor Dixon. For this next set of topic podcasts, we are going to be engaging in church leadership. I have been engaging in extensive research on this topic. Some of my graduate studies, both in the theological field and also in the educational field, is on leadership. But most of what we are going to be engaging in this topic is influenced mostly from the theological, biblical studies on leadership, church leadership. Also, a full transcript of my study will be placed in my blog post. I also have a blog post, calvertwordpress.wordpress.com, and you can see the full article I have written there on my blog page. But also I will send the link in the description below that will take you straight to the blog page. Also, before we get into the topic on leadership, please, if the content on this channel mean something to you or is valuable to you, can you please like, subscribe, tell a friend. The more you go and hit that like button and hit that like button, it helps the YouTube channel. So I'm encouraging you to like, and if you have not subscribed, subscribe, and also to share with a friend. Now let's get into the topic. Leadership is a buzzword that has created a phenomenological interest in recent times. As much as leadership is associated with the person, his or her acumen, social, persuasive, charismatic, and visionary aptitude that stimulates action within a group or organization, it is on the chessboard of the planning room the outcome is decided. Thus, the leader must construct a strategic team to help in actualizing the vision proposed, according to Wool 2021. States that strategic leaders marry their strategic plan to their strategic management. Their organization respects their leadership role and overall vision while working to bring that vision to life. In other words, a leader knows how to work with a team to present his vision, articulate his vision, and that team help to craft and help to see that vision to fruition. Christian leaders are no exception. Whether pastor, Christian educator, or a leader of a Christian organization, you are called to think strategically while seeking God's wisdom. Unfortunately, many pastors tend to disassociate pastoring from strategic planning. They are of the notion that all they need to do is prepare a good sermon and love their congregants, and that is all God requires of them. Nothing is wrong with those disciplines, for their importance cannot be diminished. Yet, intrinsically, leadership demands more. This demands is not a secular concept, but finds its origin in God and permeates itself throughout His creation and His Word. Biblical examples. In the first two chapters of the book of Genesis, the creation account displays God's strategic genius.
In the first chapter of the book of Genesis, God creates the universe and everything in it. The chapter details the creation of the heavens and the earth, as well as the creation of Adam and Eve and their expulsion.
Biblical examples. In the first two chapters of the book of Genesis, the creation account displays God's strategic genius. Each day's activities were carefully thought out in chronological sequences. There were no shortcuts, and every act was precisely orchestrated. What many of us fail to recognize in the creation account is that mankind was the main attraction in the creation account. Before God created man, he first created the environment for man to live in. Hence, for the creation to be self-sustainable and function as a fine-tuned as it is, intellectual and strategic thought was employed. In the book of Proverbs, God explained that it was through wisdom he created the universe. We can also see it in the building of the ark in the 9th chapter of Genesis. God, the master architect, gave no precise dimensions and the material needed to construct the ark so it could withstand the flood to come. This can also be seen in the construction of the tabernacle and in the temple and their furnishings. Most importantly, we can see this in the meta-narrative of God's redemption plan throughout human history narrated in his strategic manual, the Bible. It is also important to recognize that one of the most pronounced proof of the existence of God is the gift of intelligence he endowed to mankind. Genesis 1:27, and in the image of God he made them, male and female created he them. The image of God, the imago Dei, the intelligence. God gave man intelligence. As the creation screams intelligence, it points to its creator. Thus, because mankind is blessed with intelligence, it displays he was made in the image of his creator. Therefore, God expects his creature to think, create, plan, and be strategic. Much more, the entrance of sin, evil, and Satan cause us to be more strategic. We have three enemies that are formidable foes to fight: the world, the flesh, and the devil. With the aid of the Holy Spirit and the gift of problem solving, we can overcome. We must use strategy to beat a strategic opponent. Yes, our warfare is spiritual, not carnal, but that does not mean that we cannot be spiritually strategic. A synonym for being spiritually strategic is wisdom. Proverbs 1:7. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. As the adage states, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. One of the abilities that was also granted to us humans by our Creator is the skill of adaptability. Humans are the most resilient creatures on the planet. This ability to adapt is due to our main survival defense, intellect. All of God's creatures have some kind of defense and predatorial mechanism. Again, our ability to think makes us the apex predator and masters of our world. Human lives on almost all the continents of the world and adjust to the most arid, frigid conditions. While certain animals can only survive under certain climatic conditions, humans can live anywhere. How can this be? Strategic thinking is the science of adaptability. Therefore, the ability to adapt and adjust demands a strategic mindset. In all facets of life, we employ strategic thinking. When a person is young, he or she works and save for retirement. Also, when a person has a family, he works to support his wife and children and create the best opportunities that will position his children to be successful. Organizations and businesses also study their market and strategically plan to make them relevant, profitable, and resilient. Thus, the church too needs to be strategic. When I am referring to the church, I am referencing local churches. Many believers and pastors misapply Matthew chapter 16-17 by associating it with the local church. This passage is mostly associated with the universal church, not so much local. In fact, we have witnessed the death of many local churches, some prominent, mainstream, denominational, and non-denominational. Now, with that said, what is the state of the church? Unfortunately, we do not have much data to measure church growth and decline in the Caribbean islands. Now, with that said, I am going to develop a poll that I would like you all to engage in. It will be also in the description below. Both pastors, laypersons in churches to participate in this poll, especially those who are in the Caribbean region. It's time for us to take data so that we can measure where we are and improve. And this poll will engage what you think are the main problems for the decline of church membership post-COVID and pre-COVID. This might be a blue ocean to consider as a research field to explore. Thus, we can only rely on trends of those in the US, since the Caribbean tend to mimic the US. Jennifer Graham, in an article written in Desert News, quoted Jim Davis and Michael Graham in their book, The Great Dechurching, indicated that 1 to 6 or 40 million church goers have stopped attending based on a 2019 research. Their main concern is that many of the pastors that are pastoring these churches are called hospice pastors, in that their main role is to manage dying churches by assisting them to die a slow and respectful death. Unfortunately, many of the hospice pastors are part of the problem, in that they become pastors by default. That is, they being members of such churches during the dying process, they have become the pastors without the exposure of leading a turnaround process. According to the Pew Research, Crenshaw 2023, there have been a sharp decline in Christianity for adults in the United States from 90% in the 1990s to 64% by 2020, the post-COVID era. The decline in church attendance in the United States post-COVID-19 is evident from various sources. A study by Lifeway Research in 2023 revealed that share of regular churchgoers decreased by 6 percentage points from 34% in 2019 to 28% in 2021. Additionally, a report funded by Lilly Endowment, led by the Hartford Institute for Religion Research, shows that U.S. church attendance has declined compared to pre-pandemic levels. The new AWVI 2023 numbers indicate a significant drop in church attendance, with 39% of adults attending a Christian church service at least once a week at the onset of the pandemic, which decreased to 33% post-pandemic. Moreover, the share of secular Americans has increased, with 56% new attending church infrequently or not at all. These statistics highlight the importance of the pandemic on church attendance as it pertains in the United States. And there is a chart below which shows the pandemic, as was mentioned earlier. Reasons for the decline. The decline in church attendance in the United States post-COVID-19 attributed to a variety of factors. These include shifting culture values. As societies become more secular and accepting of diverse lifestyles, the appeal of traditional religious institutions may be diminishing. Busier schedules. With increasing demands on time for work, family, and other activities, people may have less time for church attendance. Generational changes. The values and beliefs of the younger generations may be different from those of previous generations, leading to a decline in church attendance. Lack of engagement. If people do not see a direct benefit from attending church, they may not make time for it. Valuing. Attendance over engagement. Focusing on attendance rather than engagement with the faith community can lead to declining attendance. A massive cultural shift. The culture is shifting, and the church leaders who fail to recognize this will not be able to change rapidly enough to respond to the shifts that are happening. Decline of Christianity. The decline of Christianity in the US is a broader trend, with a significant jump in the proportion of the Americans who say they never attend religious services. Closures of churches. The pandemic has accelerated the trend of church closures, with thousands of churches closing each year, leading to a decline in church attendance. Perceptions of judgmental and hypocritical church members. Young adults may be leaving church due to the perception that church members are judgmental and hypocritical. Disagreement with church stance on political and social issues. Some young adults may be leaving church due to the disagreement with the church's stance on political and social issues. Based on the stated statistics of the decline in church attendance and reason for the decline listed, what are the solutions? Solutions. One of the easiest solutions that is popular among many dying churches is to adopt the principle of praying and hope for the best. Another solution, which is the best, is to pray and while praying act. So how would we act? It is important to note that while waiting on God for answers, praying is important. It is also in your active desire to find solution God gives and His direction. Oftentimes, the solution are right in front of us if we just take a good look and evaluate the church's current situation. Brutally honest. If church leaders refuse to be brutally honest in assessing their church's position, do not expect meaningful changes. One first step is to be brutally honest by taking a test amongst you and the other leaders of your church. Then conduct the same test with your congregation to assess alignment of differences. That is, take a sigmoid curve test. If the result of both tests indicate close alignment, The leaders know where their church is positionally. If there is a sharp discrepancy between both tests, this may indicate that the leaders are not aware of their church's position. And below we see an example of a sigmoid curve test, and it have, well, 5 stated position from 1 to 10, 1 being the lowest, 1 is birth, then by 3 you see growth, by 5 and 6 you see the church start to plateau, then it start to come downhill. By the time you hit 7, 8 and 9 you see decline, and by the time you reach 10, that's death. And based on where the members are, where they feel the church is on this curve will be an indicator if your church is growing, plateauing, or dying. Based on experience, many church leaders who are not concerned about the church's position would not be interested in taking this simple test. On the other hand, leaders who have great concern for their church's position and direction show a great deal of interest in such evaluation. So basically, the first stage is evaluation. Do an honest, critical evaluation by taking the simple test. And the simple test will give you an idea where you and most of your members of the church think or believe the church is. And be honest, and if it's overwhelmingly pointing to one direction or particular direction, start to act, start to pray, start to get your strategic team together, and start to plan. Also, conduct polls in your church. Do surveys, do polls in your church. And by doing that, do it consistently. You will get a feel of where the members and the congregation feel, because sometimes you as a leader, as a pastor, there is a great disconnect between the pulpit and the pew. And sometimes we think we are on track, and many times people in the congregation think that we are off track. So take polls, be on the pulse of where you think the congregation is. And after you see the results and you calculate the results of the sigmoid test, and there are other tests that you can do. This is just an example. You just say you have to do this. And after you take polls, you must have polls, you must take the statistic, you must get feedback. Be on point with these things. It's not just coming church Sunday and Bible study during the week, and then Sunday and Bible study during the week, and just doing the same thing over and over. Evaluate. If you don't measure something, you will not be effective. So leaders, the first thing is to evaluate, and when you do an evaluation, take introspective tests. As I said, I gave an example of this test, and it is a simple starting point. And do construct polls. If you need ideas on how to construct polls to get statistical data, you can also contact me via my email, and also you can contact me with a comment, and I will try to get back with you. Next time we will do part 2, and part 2 how to construct a strategic team to help in your church development, and as we move forward in the 21st century. A strategic team is so important. A strategic team is so important that every church should have a strategic team. Well, thank you very much for listening. I hope that this topic was inspiring and that you're looking forward for part 2. As I said, in part 2, we are going to be looking at how to build a strategic team. It is vitally important. As we evaluate, now we need a team to help us plan and strategize as we look forward to grow the ministry that God has given us to be steward of until He come, return, or until He decide to take us home. So remember, as I said, to like, subscribe, share, and tell a friend. Until next time, may the Lord's blessings be with you.